Stand up straight, and your feet are gonna be like in a V shape with your heels together, feet at a 45-degree angle. Hold your arms up in a cactus pose, two fingers on the right, five fingers on the left, and repeat after me. Allah, the Father of the
Allah,
universe,
Father of the
Father of the
universe,
universe,
the Father of love,
Father of
Father
love,
of love,
truth,
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 peace,
peace,
freedom,
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 and justice.
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah,
As my protector,
my guide,
my
my
God,
guide,
and my salvation,
and myself,
my salvation,
by night and by day.
by name,
by night
prayer,
and by day.
Through his holy prophet,
through his holy
His
prophet,
holy prophet,
Drew Ali.
Ali.
Amen.
Drew Ali.
Amen.
Wow. All right. I want to announce that the meeting is now open. First and foremost, we always rise, give the highest praise to the Most High, the creator of the universe, our Father God, Allah. We give honors to our divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, for bringing us our divine creed and nationality so that we may learn to love instead of hate. We also give honors to the forerunner to the prophet, our brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey. We also give honors to all the sheiks and adepts and all the faithful Moors that make up the grand body of the Moorish Divine and National Movement. We give honors to our brother, the first appointed Supreme Grand Sheik by the Prophet, and that's brother E. Millie Ill. We also give honors to our brother, the current Supreme Grand Sheik, brother K. Dandrigel. Honors to the Grand Council of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and honors to all faithful on this call. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Now, Brother Jackson Bay, would you please read the Divine Constitution and bylaws?
Islam. I rise giving perfect praise to Allah and honors to the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and honors to the Muslims on the call and all over the world. Because Friday is our holy day of rest. Salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce law with the assistance of the Prophet and the grand body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on the Friday, the first man was formed in flesh, and on the Friday, the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and partial of the government and must live life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and partial of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become part and partial of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful, husband. You must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Noble Drew Ali, founder, Moorish American Prayer, Allah, the father of the universe, the father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. The Moorish Science Temple of America, home office of Noble Drew Ali, home office, Chicago, Illinois, USA. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Holy Day, Muslims.
All right. Thank you, brother. Thank you. And let's go ahead and go to the writs. Brother Cole Bay, would you please read the writs of the prophet?
Islam. I rise and give honors to great God Allah. Rise and give honors to our prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Rise and give honors to our forerunner, Marcus Messiah Garvey. Give honors to all Moors attending this call on Holy Day and all Moors on the planet. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam. This is instructions from your prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Be faithful unto your forefather divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is on now, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of times are drawing near, so says Allah to a divine prophet, I Noble Drew Ali, and that is why many hearts have turned to stone, many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they will be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam, I am glad to know I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation. They claim that I was a joke and unreal. But now, since they found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that pay their divine respects to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finances so badly as I do at present, so I may shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Prophet warns all Muslims to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, and on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their rewards from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet, Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans. They do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Holy Day, more.
All right, Islamism. Appreciate you, brother. Okay, additional laws for Moorish Americans by Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Act 1, grant sheiks and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Before acting upon by any member, let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause a member to sacrifice, finance, etc., that will cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the prophet or the grand sheik. Act 2, all members are to attend their ADEP meetings and their public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second will be fined $1, which will go on your emergency fund. If member is working, his monthly dues must be paid, and if he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3, it is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able to finance, to aid me in saving the nation, and if he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch you. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4, all members, while up making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radical against the church or any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5, all members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire and let every member exercise his 5 senses who's able to do so, because out from your Sunday school come the guiders of the nation. Act 6, with us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and a parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7, all members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his father, God Allah. Islam, Islam, Islamism. As we are in this book, this is from our literature. It's often called the 101s, the Koran questionnaire for Moorish Americans. As you can see on here, you have the Prophet Noble Drew Ali wearing his fez, holding the woman that says humanity on it. And then he's got one foot in the water. It says the cares of the world. He's lifting humanity out of the cares of the world onto the solid rock of salvation. Okay, this is the book of the 7 seals right here. Okay, and it's right on time. We're in the last days, and this is the book of the 7 seals. The prophet is bringing this information, these divine instructions, for us to be able to avoid the calamities and things that are happening or that are sure to come, and for us to be successful. In Revelations, the seventh angel broke the seventh seal, and he had 1 foot on water and 1 foot on land. Okay. In Revelations 10, verses 1 through 4, it says, "Then I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven. He was robed in a cloud with a rainbow above his head. His face was like the sun, and his legs were like fiery pillars. He was holding a little scroll, which lay open in his hand. He planted his right foot on the sea and his left foot on the land. And he gave a loud shout like the roar of a lion. When he shouted, the voices of the seven thunders spoke. And when the seven thunders spoke, I was about to write, but I heard a voice from heaven say, 'Seal up what the seven thunders have said and do not write it down.'" Okay. And the prophet told us that the divine instructions that are in the Quran were sealed up for a time, right? They were held back from the people um, by the Muslims in Palestine, the Muslims in the East, until the time was right. All right. And the time is now. So the prophet was right on time, and this message was delivered to us. Also, before we go into our lesson, we're going to be in chapter 34 today. And before we go into that, I do want to read something to you just to share some information. First,
Islam.
Islam.
It was Revelations. What you said, 10?
Yeah, 10 should be verses 1 through 4. Hold on, let me check it. It should. That sounds right. Yeah, Revelations 10, 1 through 4.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
The seventh angel broke the seventh seal, and they had 1 foot on water, 1 foot on land. All right. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to read this in examination of more science. We have it's in a question answer format. Question 1 is, what is more science? And then we have an answer. It says more science is a body of knowledge based upon identification, distinguishes and separates the descendants. Remember, descendants are breeding from an ancestor or coming from a source. So it separates the descendants of slaves from the institution of slavery. Okay, and just in that alone, some of the things that we've talked about before, right? The way that we're taught history is skewed, is one-sided. They've taught history to the point where we associate slaves with people that look like us, right? And almost anytime they're talking about somebody from the past, even if somebody who's like a king or a prince or something like that, they'll tell us that he was an escaped slave. And they just have it to the point where anytime somebody, you know, dark skinned, quote unquote, nappy hair or whatever, they slap the slave label on them. Okay, so they start us off as slavery, no matter what. And it's quite the opposite. When you do actual outside reading, right? Because they even do this at the college level, where they're still teaching this. So they teach the same thing that they do in schools. Basically, we started off as slavery, but we know that story, not saying that our people didn't get enslaved, just saying the story is skewed, is one-sided, because from the 1400s on up to the 1800s, you had people of European descent being enslaved. You had cities and villages in Europe getting raided by who? By Moors. And Europeans were literally being sold into slavery. Even diplomats, even high up people that had positions, you know, you even had people who were, well, Europeans that they weren't able to just travel the seas and trade and do these things because they were potentially going to get robbed and raided and even sold into slavery by Moors, by, they'll say, Barbary pirates, corsairs, right? And so this was going on for a long time, and to the point where all throughout American history, or all throughout American history, on up through even before the 13 colonies became the United States of America. All right. So if we're talking about before the 1776, when it officially became the United States of America, before that, on up to the through the 1800s, they were paying tribute to the various Moorish powers, and they had Americans, which were actually, European colonists who were being captured, sold into slavery. You have people from Germany and all these different European nations doing the same thing, right? To the point where they basically helped to contribute to the creation of what we see now when you look at North Africa and the Middle East, where you have a lot of people who look like they're of European descent. And that's all, for the most part, stemming from Europeans getting sold into slavery in Africa. All right, it was such a big deal. So that's one thing. Like when you look at that question, what is more science? It's a body of knowledge based upon identification, distinguishes and separates the descendants of slaves from the institution of slavery. Obviously, we can't start off with slavery if we're looking at it from that point of view. There's way, way, way more to the story than that. So we're not the descendants of slaves, and it's not really a good idea to identify yourself as that. And that's something that we see going on, like politically now. They had this ADOS thing. I don't know, is it African descendants of slaves? Is American descendants of slaves? I don't know, but it's not really a good idea to slap that label on yourself unless you're going to do some research and make sure that that's what you descend from. But as Moors, we know that we precede, we predate slavery, and we also know that we're not victims. All right, and so it's a body of knowledge. It includes your nationality, your divine creed. We have divine instructions. It's deep. And then, of course, our nationality is Moorish American. And well, this is also in our questionnaire, but why are we Moorish Americans? We're descendants of Moroccans born in America. Who were the Moroccans? In the restrictive sense, the Moroccans refer to the nationals of Morocco, present day Morocco, and their immediate descendants. However, Moroccans in the context that we're using refers to a conglomeration. It's a widely diversified group, right? So you had several African tribes inhabited northwest and southwestern shores of Africa, beginning with Moabites, Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, who sojourned from the land of Canaan and extended to modern nationalities. So you have several tribes that comprised what we would consider Moroccans. And the Moroccan Empire wasn't even limited to North Africa. Most of us know by now that a huge part of the Moroccan Empire was in Spain. They ruled from Spain for 800 years. You had portions in the Philippines and even across the Atlantic. So it was vast. And that's why it's not a coincidence that, well, since it's getting close to Thanksgiving, that when Al-Andalus, which is what Spain was called when the Moors ruled, when it finally fell in 1491, and the last stronghold in Granada was signed over to Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand in 1491. Guess what date that occurred on? That occurred on November 25th or 26th. It was Thanksgiving, the day of capitulation. All right. They're thankful for getting all of this land from the Moors, getting all of these treasures. Now they get to raid all these Moorish castles, Moorish universities, libraries, getting access to maps and details and access to the Americas. And then the very next year, coincidence, right? Christopher Columbus comes over here, 1491. Why weren't they able to do that the year before? Right? So that's why we're Moroccans or descendants of the ancient Moroccans in the non-restrictive sense. All right. it wasn't a coincidence that they were able to come after a portion of the empire fell. All right, this was over here. This was included in that as well, and that's what nobody's really going to teach. We also have a question on here. What does Moorish mean? Moorish means to be like the Moors, the dark-hued aboriginals of Africa. The Berber conquerors of Spain, from the Latin word Moris. Moris means inhabitants of Mauritania. And that even includes the several Muslims of the southern Philippines, any of the Austronesian languages of the Moor people. Who were the Moors or Moorish in terms of civilization? History informs us they were the dark-hued aboriginals of Africa who founded the first civilization on Earth. And it was they who charted the stars, created astronomy, and the science of human enlightenment and advancement, psychology. Okay. I'm not really going to read all of this stuff in here. These aren't my words. This is from Brother R. Edwards L. If there's any mistakes in this, though, put that on me. Don't put that on the prophet. I do want to read these last two of these questions, though. What does the Moorish Science Temple of America hope? How does it hope to remove the influence of slavery? The Moorish Science Temple is accomplishing this by teaching the descendants of slaves who they are in terms of their relationship with their creator and how to organize this knowledge. And that's how they may take their rightful place in the affairs of men. And then how did the prophet begin to uplift the Moorish Americans? By teaching them to be themselves, their culture, history, and tradition. Okay. And so that's important because in the Quran, which we're going to be speaking on today, in the beginning of it, in the very beginning, it gives you the story of creation, the fall of man. It lets you know that Allah is in you, in every last one of us. It lets us know that we're still connected, even though we began to fall so deeply into our human experience that we forgot about it. And then it proceeds to give you the steps and the tools to reconnect back to that consciously, to bring out God in man. Because it's one thing to give a person a little knowledge, right? You have people that, call themselves gods. Hey, peace, God, what's up? But they're not actually living it. They're not actually consciously creating their reality. They're not actually putting that to work to make it actually mean something for them, right? So he informed us, or he gave us the origin, the missing story, which is important, but he also gave us the steps on how to unfold God in man. That's why this was up on the screen. That's the 12-step ladder. And so we have instructions, divine instructions on how to apply this to our life. Once you achieve each step, you get closer to subduing your lower self. All right. And this is real. This is not a joke. It's not fantasy. And this is how we truly rise up and realize our potential. And then what we're talking on today, just one aspect of that. We're in the Holy Quran in chapter 34, Holy Instructions from the Prophet on Sincerity. And with the chapters 31 through 35, we talked about this before. These are dealing with our social duties. So these are applying 5 of those same steps from that ladder that was up there, which we apply to ourselves individually to bring out Allah and man. And we're also applying these to how we conduct ourselves within our society, right? So that our society, because we have a theocracy, meaning of or from God, right? Our society is ruled by Allah. And this is something that can't be removed. You can't just get this information online and run with it. You have to put this into work. It can't just be talk. What did our ancestors have? In ancient Egypt, they also had a theocratic monarchy. And this is the same thing that we have. So the prophet returned something truly divine to us. Trust me, our people in 1928, they weren't on this. They weren't practicing this without the prophet. We weren't there, just like we aren't there today. So this was necessary then, and it's extremely necessary now. It can't be left out. These social duties, these codes of conduct that are being returned to us are the exact opposite of what is being pushed on us hardcore. The message that's coming through, even if you don't listen, like I don't really listen to the radio that much, but I'm still getting the message because it's in the airwaves. Right now, something's playing on the radio that is pushing savagery, that is pushing everything which is the opposite of our higher self. All right, so it's extremely important, and it's wonderful that we are actually gathered here on a Friday, and we're studying God's words, and we're working on bringing out our higher self. Okay, not trying to get drunk right now. Hopefully, you're not trying to get high right now. You don't really need to get high though, if you put in the work, and especially with the tips that I was sharing. Did anybody try the third eye exercise? Has anyone tried that yet at night? I'm telling you, you put it to work, you realize, like, you don't, smoking a blunt and all that stuff pales in comparison to opening your third eye while you're conscious, connecting to your higher self. It's nothing like you would throw away a whole pound of weed. You would look at it like it's a joke. Trust me on that. Has anybody had a chance to try that though?
Peace, I did.
Islam, you have any luck making it work for you? Or experience?
I haven't remembered remembered everything that happened, like when I did try it. But I've done it a couple nights in a row, and I'm gaining the practice with it, the knowledge, but I can't say that it worked specifically, explicitly, excuse me.
Islam. All right, man. That's what's up. So you just have to keep at it. Just keep at it. I mean, I'm sure everybody's experience is different, but for the most part, if you're working at that, like, telling yourself the intent to open your third eye tonight, before you go to bed, and that you want to wake up, you're telling your body, because ultimately you control your body. So you're telling your body you want to wake up in the middle of the night and open up your third eye. And then the hardest part is just when you actually wake up in the middle of the night, remembering to do it, not getting up and going to the bathroom or something like that, just laying there, laying still and doing it. But, really why I wanted to share that with everyone is because I know that works. I've done it before several times, and it's powerful. And that also can take everyone from having faith or believing to knowing, knowing that Allah's in you for real, knowing that these aren't just words. It's not just words in a book. It's not just what someone says. There's nothing that can compare to knowing. All right. And, that takes away fear of death, all of that, everything. And then it lets you know that you are connected to the creator of everything. It's powerful. It's a mind-blowing experience. Words can't really describe it. But just coming back to where we're at in chapter 34 with sincerity, remember that these are the Moorish American codes of conduct. There's 5 of them: justice, charity, gratitude, sincerity. And then after this one, we'll do religion. And we're supposed to adhere to these on a daily basis. And wherever we're taking our place in the affairs of men. So just even with us, say we just in Central Ohio, we just have our small community of Moorish Americans, and we're doing this and we're practicing this. Even if there's only like 50 of us, we're still going to be powerful because we're adhering to our principles. This is how we conduct business. This is how we conduct ourselves on a regular basis. You know, eventually it's going to grow too. But if you look at other groups in this country, you look at the Hasidic Jews, there's not a lot of them. Matter of fact, they don't even recruit. They don't really like, if you told them that you wanted to convert to Judaism, they're going to try to talk you out of it. And not just because of your skin color. I mean, like, even if you was of European descent, they're going to try to talk you out of it by telling you about how hard it is, all of the things that they have to do. You know, obviously, like, they can't eat pork. You know, that's just something simple to throw out there. But they're going to tell you about all of the things that they have to do because they can't be like the Gentiles. They can't be like everyone else. You know, they're like, well, you know, you can't get high. You can't smoke weed. You can't do X, Y, and Z. And they're going to try to talk you out of it. They're not trying to grow and get more people in because they're like, look, we're the chosen ones. We have more responsibility on us. But really why I brought that up is because it doesn't matter how small their communities are, they have power and money and influence, and they can control, you know, their communities. They can have total control over their community, like total control. They can have their own police force. They control all the real estate, all the businesses. They have their own schools. They have their own rules. Even within their communities in New York, they have several of their men just go to religious school. Like, they don't have regular jobs. And now I was just throwing that out there as an example because, you know, if we're holding to our ways, we control our reality totally. Right. And as the sister said in the chat, it's not the quantity, it's the quality. Okay. Um, so yeah, just moving on. We're gonna go ahead and read this holy instructions from the prophet, sincerity. Verse 1, O thou who art enamored with the beauty of truth and hast fixed thy heart on the simplicity of her charms, hold fast thy fidelity unto her and forsake her not. The constancy of thy virtue shall crown thee with honor. Excuse me. The tongue of the sincere is rooted in heart. Hypocrisy and deceit have no place in his words. He blusheth at falsehood and is founded, but in speaking the truth, he hath a steady eye. He supporteth as a man the dignity of his character. To the arts of hypocrisy he scorneth to stoop. He is consistent with himself. He is never embarrassed. He hath courage enough for truth, but to lie he is afraid. He is far above the meanness of dissimulation. I have to look that up, man. Dissimulation. Hang on. I'm going to look in the 1828 dictionary. Dissimulation. Oh, dissimulation. Okay. All right. Okay, yeah. All right. For dissimulation, we have to make like the act of dissembling, hiding under a false appearance, false pretension, hypocrisy. Dissimulation may be simply concealment of the opinions, sentiments, or purpose. Okay, so for the most part, we have hiding in appearance, hiding. So he's far above the meanness of dissimulation. The words of his mouth are the thoughts of his heart. Yet with prudence and caution, he openeth his lips. And that's like the exact opposite of how things are, especially with social media, where people can say anything, not putting any thought into it. with prudence and caution. He openeth his lips. He studieth what is right and speaketh with discretion. And that means less is more. He adviseth with friendship. He reproveth with freedom. And whatsoever he promiseth shall surely be performed. But the heart of the hypocrite is hid in his breast. He maketh his words in the semblance of truth, while the business of his life is only to deceive. He laugheth in sorrow, he weepeth in joy, and the words of his mouth have no interpretation. And so this is giving us instructions on how to be and then who to watch out for, right? Everything like um with this culture, you have the stuff like TMZ and all this gossip stuff, and it things that are taking joy in the sorrow of others, making fun of people, showing everybody when they fall. We're to have no part of that. He worketh in the dark as a mole, and fancieth he is safe, but he blundereth into light, and is betrayed and exposed with dirt on his head. And this is kind of the period that we're living in where things are coming to light, things are getting exposed. People that we may have thought were getting away with doing terrible things are starting to come to light. They're starting to get exposed. It's coming out. And if we were to carry on with society like it is now without coming into our own way, all we would do is just put a darker skin tone to the bad guys. It would be us. We'll be the new bad guys, right? We can't copy the way that Western society is right now, because Western society is only going to create a monster. That's all they do. That's also why they show us as far as celebrities, with rap, it's people who are talking about selling drugs, you know, talking about whatever crimes they committed. This is who they're putting up on a pedestal for us to look up to. He passeth his days in perpetual constraint. His tongue and heart are forever at variance. He laboreth for the character of a righteous man, and huggeth himself in the thoughts of his cunning. Then, O fool, fool, the pains which thou takest to hide what thou art are more than would make thee what thou wouldest seem. And the children of wisdom shall mock at thy cunning. When in the midst of security, thy disguise is stripped off, and the finger of derision shall point thee to scorn. Okay, so we're given tools on how to establish our society in righteousness so that it can be solid on solid foundation. All right. And in this chapter, we're given the acts of sincerity, and they're the words that are being spoken that are consistent with your intentions. All right. And the promises that are consistent with your actions. All right. And that's we're to mean what we say, and we're to have good intent. And once again, this is the exact opposite of what's pushed on us, what we're encouraged to be like. All right. And maybe even in some cases in society where you may be encouraged, to have ill morals to get ahead. Right. But this society is crumbling down. It's crumbling. All they can do is put band-aids on it, but it's coming down. And there's nothing they can do about it. All right. Does anybody else have anything they want to add, or any questions they want to ask about this chapter? All right. Does anybody have any questions in general? Anything at all that you wanted to speak on? All right. Okay. All right, we're gonna go ahead and go into the closing. First, though, just want to make sure. Well, I think everybody knows about the trip to the mound on the 29th. But if you don't, just check your email. Send everybody the flyer, the address. We're supposed to be meeting there around noon, and that's at the Miamisburg Mound. All right. Okay, so let's see. Brother Davis L, do you have your the Moorish literature?
Uh, Give me a second.
All right. If you do, would you mind reading the divine warning?
Islam. Editorial, divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are all of one family, bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that delude to slavery. I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to the state of mind of their forefathers, divine and national principles, that they will be law abiders and receive their divine rights as citizens. According to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings, they are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by the other citizens, that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the United States government, of the state's government, and not under a granted privilege as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into the light. Money doesn't make the man, it is free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver, and commerce belong to the citizens alone, and without your national citizenship, by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of government. I am depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate, and to and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of the yeah, our free national constitution of the United States of America. I love my people and I desire their unity and mind back to their own national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised, there is asked for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any group, any government, you must claim your national descent name because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro alludes in the Latin language to the word niger, the same as the word color alludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring thy fathers and they mothers, your days will be lengthened upon this earth. These names have never been recognized by any true American citizen of this day. Through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendment brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners who were at that time without power with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was enforced in 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since the constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. So there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come, because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And I, the prophet, do hereby believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, and through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving cardinal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding, they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc. In their present condition of their endeavorment, in which they themselves try to force upon the civilized world, they will not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And that fought, and they fought the Southerner for all these great misuses. But I have traveled in the South, and have examined conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which brings dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light. Peace.
All right, Islam, brother. Thank you, Islam. All right. I want to announce without further ado, we're going to go into the closing of the meeting. Before we close out, just want to make sure, does anybody else have anything that they wanted to announce or any questions?
Islam. I want to ask one more question. If anyone is interested in volunteering for this year's toy drive here in Columbus, let me know and I'll give you some information about that. All
right, Islam. All right. All meetings are to be opened and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Please rise for the closing prayer. You do not need to repeat after me. All right, Allah, bind our hearts and minds back to our ancient forefathers' divine creed and principles. We ask this in thy holy name and the 7 Elohim. Amen. Islam, Islam, Islamism. Happy Holy Day, Moors.
Happy Holy Day.
Islam. Happy Holy Day.
Happy Holy Day.
Islam, happy Holy Day. Be safe.
Happy Holy Day. Islam.